Oh, hello. I've had to come back to this sign. It was bugging me. Ealing's Parks Public Spaces Protection Order Area. These are a modern thing, aren't they? I don't know how many years these have been about. I grew up most of my life without having these signs everywhere. Perhaps as human beings we've become unruly and we need far more controls than we ever had before. I was thinking about the psychoactive substances bit. It says surrender any psychoactive substances or associated paraphernalia you possess or any items reasonably believed to be such by an authorised officer. In the Public Spaces Protection Order area you are required to. In the Public Spaces Protection Order area it is prohibited to possess and or smoke, inject, inhale or otherwise consume any psychoactive substances. Psychoactive substances are psychiatric medications. Also, interestingly enough, some forms of rye bread. There's a psychoactive substance you can be found on rye bread. So I guess if you get a sandwich from Sainsbury's with rye bread on it, and you're having your lunch in the park, obviously you can't have your lunch in the park with a glass of wine or anything, so picnicking, that sort of picnicking is out of order. And an authorised officer comes over, you have to hand over your rye bread sandwich or your psychiatric medication. Very strange. I wonder how we got on before all that came into being, you know. Quite clearly we've become very unruly. Or are people putting more controls on people's lives? What's wrong with a day like today is putting out a nice blanket and have a picnic hamper with a bottle of champagne in or a nice crisp white wine. You're prohibited from doing that now. Anyway, I've been off my nut on mushrooms in this park a number of times. Yeah. I'm also going to go back to the Celestine prophecy. I was going to give that to Sarah today. Of course, in my therapy group between 1988 and 1990, we discussed many things. You're not supposed to talk about Grendon at all. We talked about many things. Deja vu came up. Surprisingly, we talked about that at some length. I'm not sure why. They like to dive into anything, delve deeply into everything they do. Deja vu, of course, is the sense, the feeling that you've been someplace or in a situation before. Grendon started mucking around with my life as soon as I left, really. Or someone has been mucking around with my life since I left. And they've been using information gathered on me at Her Majesty's Prison, Grendon. I've been quietly kicking off, really. And kicking off in private about cover-ups and child abuse for quite a long time. It was only after Brian Harvey's MI5 set up, and I could see what was going on there and the aftermath of it all, that I became more public about things. But in 1994, I got set up for kidnapping and firearms offences, kidnapping somebody from the Royal Irish Regiment commanded by Prince Andrew, if you believe that. That I genuinely did it, you know. It's not really my modus operandi, kidnapping at gunpoint. Any criminologist worth his salt, Professor David Wilson, would know. That's not really me. But when I realised that the stakes had been upped and people were going to go to the lengths of setting me up for very serious crimes that carried very serious jail time, 18 years my barrister told me I was looking at until they dropped the kidnapping charge. You know you're dealing with something very, very serious indeed.
No, but why, I don't understand why they couldn't have had a conversation, or Emma,
I knew I'd need all the help I could get to deal with it. So I looked at various religions. We'd already done the psychiatry bit at Her Majesty's Prison Grendon. And I picked Buddhism as a path to follow. Well, while I was looking around at various religions, somebody handed me a copy of the Celestine Prophecy. Somebody I didn't trust, really. Somebody who could be easily bought. And it goes into synchronicity. Very weird coincidences. That couldn't be used for psychological controls now, could it? Gaslighting. With repeated situations, interactions. Of course, I also know how I feel about homelessness, because I was homeless when I was a kid. And for a number of years, people have been constantly threatening to make me homeless. They also know how I feel about child abuse and cover-ups and child abuse. And I was in Parliament Square in 2013 with a bunch of people who I believe were helping cover up child abuse. I think I'll leave this book here. I'm tempted to write in it. It's a load of cobblers, this book. It is a load of cobblers. It reminds me of David Icke a bit. I haven't actually read this little pocket thing. I just bought it for the reference about the deja vu thing. It's absolute cobblers. It reminds me of David Icke. The person who gave me a copy of it while I was on that sentence, I told him I thought it was cobblers. Because I've been reading about a lot of different religions. And this book seems to latch on to, and cherry picks bits and pieces out of different faiths, different religions. And then kind of twists them, exaggerates them. It's a load of old cobblers. David Icke, I mean, I don't follow David Icke. I've listened to him a few times. I've heard enough to form an opinion. Of course, that's my opinion. Other opinions are available. Terms and conditions apply. David Icke cherry picks from different religions and different faiths and different spiritual thought and esoterica, and he sort of cobbles it all together to form his own sort of philosophy on life, you know. None of it's David Icke stuff, really. He's just nicking stuff from here, there and everywhere. Plagiarising. Sorry about that, David. That's what you're doing. If you'd like to chat about it any time, we can have a chat. Thanks very much for your support.